Ritchie Blackmore sat in a dimly lit room, his fingers tracing the edges of his Stratocaster. At 79, his hands still carried the strength of decades spent bending strings and crafting riffs that defined rock history. Deep Purple's legacy loomed large. Those wild years of Smoke on the Water, sold-out arenas, and a band that burned as bright as it fought. But today, his mind wasn't on the glory. It was on Ian Paice, the drummer who'd been there from the start, the heartbeat behind Purple's roar. Fans had been buzzing lately, digging into old interviews, piecing together the fractured story of two men who built something epic but drifted apart. Ritchie's recent words, dropped in a quiet chat with a music magazine, hit like a thunderclap. Ian's the one I miss most, but we'll never talk again. The internet exploded. What happened between them? Why the finality? To understand, we have to go back, way back. It was 1968 in London, a city alive with music and rebellion. Ritchie, a guitarist with a reputation for precision and a temper to match, was restless. He'd been cutting his teeth in session work, but he wanted more, a band that could channel his vision of raw, heavy sound. Ian Paice, a young drummer from Nottingham, was tearing up small clubs with a jazz-trained finesse that hit a ferocious edge. Their paths crossed through a mutual friend, and when Ritchie heard Ian play, he knew. "That's the guy," he later said. "He's the motor." Ian's audition for Deep Purple wasn't just a formality, it was a spark. With John Lord on organ, Rod Evans on vocals, and Nick Simper on bass, the band formed. But it was Ritchie and Ian who locked in like gears. They pushed each other, Ritchie's jagged riffs dancing over Ian's relentless rhythms. Shades of Deep Purple, their debut, hit in '68, and though it leaned psychedelic, you could hear the raw potential. By 1969, the lineup shifted. Ian Gillan and Roger Glover came in, and Deep Purple's classic Mark II era was born. Ritchie and Ian were the engine room, driving songs like Child in Time and Highway Star. On stage, they were telepathic. Ian's fills would twist and turn, and Ritchie would answer with searing leads. Off stage, though, things weren't so smooth. Ritchie was intense, a perfectionist who didn't suffer fools. Ian was steadier, the guy who'd laugh off tension but never back down. They'd clash over ideas. Ritchie wanted darker, heavier sounds. Ian leaned into groove and feel. Still, they respected each other. "Ritchie's a genius," Ian once said, "but he's not easy." Ritchie, in rare moments of warmth, called Ian the best drummer I ever played with. Fans didn't see the cracks then. They saw a band on fire. The early '70s were a blur of albums and tours. Machine Head dropped in '72, with Smoke on the Water cementing their legend. But success brought pressure. Ritchie's ego grew. He'd storm off if a show didn't meet his standards. Ian kept the band grounded, his dry humor cutting through the chaos. Yet, by 1973, things were fraying. Ian Gillan left, exhausted by the grind and Ritchie's dominance. The band soldiered on with David Coverdale and Glenn Hughes, but Ritchie was restless. Ian stayed loyal, laying down beats for Burn and Stormbringer, but he felt the shift. Ritchie was pulling away, he later recalled. In 1975, Ritchie quit, fed up with the band's direction. He formed Rainbow, chasing a new sound. Ian stayed with Deep Purple. But without Ritchie, it wasn't the same. For a while, they kept in touch. Ritchie would call Ian, half joking about stealing him for Rainbow. Ian laughed it off. He was Purple through and through. But the calls grew rare. Deep Purple limped on until 1976, then collapsed. Ian joined Whitesnake while Ritchie built Rainbow into a powerhouse. Fans hoped for a reunion, and in 1984, it happened. The Mark II lineup, Ritchie, Ian, Gillan, Glover, and Lord, came back for Perfect Strangers. The album was a hit, and for a moment, it felt like old times. Ritchie and Ian locked in again, their chemistry undeniable. But the cracks hadn't healed. Ritchie's moods darkened, he'd lash out at rehearsals, and Ian, usually calm, started to bristle. "We're older now," Ian said in an interview. "It shouldn't be this hard." The reunion unraveled by 1993. Ritchie walked out mid-tour, his frustration with Gillan boiling over. Ian was caught in the middle. He'd always been the bridge, the one who could talk to both sides. But this time, he chose purple. "It's my band too," he said. Ritchie felt betrayed, though he never said it outright. He threw himself into Rainbow and later Blackmore's Night, trading hard rock for Renaissance folk. Ian kept purple alive with new guitarist Steve Morse, proving the band could thrive without Ritchie. But something lingered, a quiet ache neither admitted. Years passed and fans kept digging. Old interviews surfaced, like one from 2014 where Ian said, "I don't know if Ritchie's still my friend. I haven't heard from him in years." It stung because Ian didn't say it with anger, just sadness. Ritchie stayed silent, but his actions spoke. He skipped Deep Purple's 2016 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, claiming he wasn't invited properly. Ian was there, accepting the honor with grace, but his speech didn't mention Ritchie. Fans noticed. The riff wasn't just professional, it was personal. Then came 2025. Ritchie, now 79, sat down for a rare interview. His hair was gray, but his eyes still burned with that old intensity. The interviewer asked about Deep Purple, about Ian. Ritchie paused, his fingers tapping the table. "Ian's the one I miss most," he said. "He was the heart of it all. But we'll never talk again. Too much time, too much stuff." The words hit hard. Fans flooded forums dissecting every syllable. What was the stuff? Was it pride, misunderstandings, or something deeper? The truth lies in fragments. Back in the 60s, Ritchie and Ian were opposites who clicked. Ritchie was the brooding artist, Ian the grounded craftsman. They'd spend nights talking music, sharing beers, dreaming big. But fame changed things. Ritchie's need for control clashed with Ian's loyalty to the band. When Ritchie left in '75, Ian didn't follow. Not because he didn't want to, but because purple was home. When Ritchie quit again in '93, Ian stayed again. Ritchie saw it as choosing sides. Ian saw it as holding the fort. There were moments that cut deep. In the '80s, Ritchie invited Ian to a Rainbow session, but Ian didn't show. Purple was reforming, and he couldn't split his focus. Ritchie took it personally. Later, Ian reached out, leaving voicemails Ritchie never returned. "I didn't put the wall up," Ian said in 2014. "He knows where I am." But Ritchie, stubborn as ever, stayed silent. By the 2000s, they were strangers. Blackmore's Night kept Ritchie busy, while Ian toured with Purple, now a well-oiled machine with Morse. Fans still dreamed of a jam, a handshake, anything. But time was slipping. Ritchie's health scare in 2023, a heart attack, 6 stents, changed him. He slowed down, reflected. Candace Knight, his wife, said he was told not to fly, to keep stress low. Maybe that's why he spoke about Ian now. At 79, he was looking back, not forward.